My name is Hazel Anderson. I am turning 30. Currently, I live with my husband Philip, who is 5 years older than me, and our 5-year-old son Raul. We are a family of 3. Today, I am attending a friend's wedding ceremony with my husband. Though I call them friends, they are closer to my husband than to me, and I only know them by face. The ceremony is held in a first-class hotel, and I find myself captivated by its luxury. While my husband exchanged greetings with acquaintances at the venue, I went to the restroom for a bit. Coming out of the restroom and heading back to the ceremony, I heard an unpleasant voice. "Oh, look at that defective item. Why are you here?" "Huh. Mom, what do you mean by that?" "Oh, it's true. Why is there a defective item here? We didn't invite them, did we?" I feel as if disdainful words are being exchanged around me. And they seem to be talking loudly on purpose. This is not just gossip, it is overtly offensive. However, no one addressed me directly. I don't want to associate with such rude people, so I quickly left the area. "Wait, you ugly thing. You can hear me, can't you?" I felt someone call out from behind, but I ignored it. My name is not you ugly thing. As I walked firmly down the corridor, the sound of hurried footsteps behind me startled me. They should have given up since I was ignoring them. Why would they embarrass themselves with such behavior? While I was pondering this, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. It appears that they had run after me. The grip on my arm was so tight that it was painful. "So, wait a minute, I'm telling you." I stared back at the woman who was shouting breathlessly and shook off her arm. She seemed not to expect such a reaction and staggered back with an exaggerated outcry. I felt that her frail behavior was pointless. "Julia, are you okay? Why are you being so violent? Ignorance really is a problem." Another woman rushed over, supporting her while giving me a stern look. What's going on? Who might you be?" "Huh? Who might I be? Have you forgotten about me?" "Yes, it seems you are very self-centered and rude. Have we met before?" As I asked this, she raised her eyebrows in astonishment. "Huh? What are you talking about? Do you think you have the right to act like this? You, with just a high school diploma? If you say you've forgotten, I'll refresh your memory. I'm your sister, Julia. Hearing the name must jog your unfortunate mind. Right? And this is our mother. Can you really say you've forgotten your own mother?" Yes, maybe there was someone by that name around me in the past. I shook my head slightly. It's a waste of time to engage in serious dialogue with these people. Dissatisfied with my response, the 2 women showed even more anger. At that moment, 2 men hurried over. "What's going on here? We could hear voices all the way over here." "Julia, are you done preparing? Oh, you're still in your regular clothes. You better hurry and change." "Dad, Daniel. This suspicious person has sneaked into our wedding. Please kick her out immediately." The woman claiming to be Julia pointed at me while shouting. Weren't they taught that it's not nice to point at people? The reactions of the 2 men who saw me were completely different. The man called Dad widened his eyes, and then clearly showed a displeased expression. The man known as Daniel froze with a look of shock, and his face gradually paled. What's going on? Why is Hazel here? To see her face on such a happy day. Exactly. She must have slipped in by mistake. It's unbearable. Hey, call the security, quickly. Wait a minute, what are you saying? Be careful with your words. This person is. While the man called Dad agreed with Julia, Daniel spoke up with a pale face. Seeing this, I muttered quietly, "You really know nothing." My remark went unnoticed by those around me. "Hazel, there you were. I've been looking for you." A new person appeared. It was my husband, Philip. All eyes turned to Philip, who seemed slightly surprised. "Sorry, I was on my way back, but got tangled up with some strange people." I said this with a wry smile and moved closer to Philip. Philip looked around and murmured briefly, "Ah." He seemed to grasp the situation immediately. His insight was indeed remarkable. Julia had been captivated by the sudden appearance of Philip, but when I stood next to him, her expression changed drastically, and she glared at me sharply. The two so-called parents still did not fully understand the situation and showed confused expressions. Daniel was visibly flustered. He was the first to speak. Mr. Anderson. I apologize. My wife said something inappropriate. I really am sorry to your wife too. Come on, Julia, apologize too. Why should I apologize? They are the ones who should be apologizing. Julia pointed at me again as she spoke. This disrespectful person intruded on our important wedding. I don't know how this happened, but this woman is a disgrace to our family. We should have cut ties with her long ago and never met again. Wait. Family? Hearing these words, he looked surprised and glanced back and forth between me and Julia. Just then, the two called Dad and Mom intervened. "Oh dear, Daniel, I'm truly sorry. We have a problematic eldest daughter. She's such an embarrassing subject that it's awkward even to mention her, and we've managed to hide this fact until now. In truth, we kicked her out of the house 9 years ago. How did she even find out about Julia's wedding? What does she intend to do by coming here uninvited? Surely she isn't planning to ruin the wedding, is she? Actually, Daniel, this girl is stupid. She only graduated high school and couldn't attend university. After graduating, she just loitered around doing part-time jobs, staying at home, and being a real nuisance. She was like a parasite. She should be grateful we provided for her through high school. Why did she sneak into the wedding? I had received such harsh treatment. Yet, I had long severed ties with this family and effortlessly brushed off all their insults. These people were, in fact, my family. At least, that's what the family registry stated. However, my parents doted on my sister, who is 6 years younger than me, and had neglected me from the time I began to develop my own identity. My father's family has been producing doctors for generations, and our home was a clinic. My mother worked as a nurse in the family-run clinic. To an outsider, our family might have appeared to live without any want. However, the reality was a home filled with toxicity. I remember trying hard to earn my parents' love when I was young, but I gave up all expectations from my family because the reason for favoring my sister was incomprehensible to me. She was deemed attractive, and I was not. Fortunately, although it might sound odd to evaluate myself, I was intelligent and excelled academically. Therefore, I focused on my studies with the goal of leaving home early. During that time, I felt like I was acting the role of the defective elder sister in the family. Listen, I won't allow you to go to university. You are inherently a defect. There's no way you could get into university. Start working immediately after high school graduation, become independent, and contribute financially to the house. It's thanks to us that someone as unattractive as you could grow up at all. You owe us a debt of gratitude. That's right. You never seem grateful. As for college expenses, we might consider it for Julia, but there's not a single cent available for you. You will spend your life serving us. Even if you do get a job, it won't be anything significant. This is what my parents told me during my senior year of high school. By the way, this conversation was recorded at the time and has been preserved to this day. During my high school years, I recorded almost all of the verbal abuse and irrational behavior from my family. My sister Julia, seeing the consistent behavior of our parents, also scorned me and always tried to assert her dominance. I will become a doctor and take over Dad's job in the future. I'll work hard enough for the both of us, since my big sister can't. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Yes, learn from her failures and do your best. Don't worry, Julia, you can do it. Yes, we will support you fully. Unlike your sister, Julia, you are truly our pride. They would have these kinds of conversations blatantly in front of me. It was like something out of a play. After graduating high school, I worked various part-time jobs for about 3 years. I still lived at home, technically. They said I was a nuisance, but they wouldn't allow me to leave on my own terms because they wanted to use me as it suited them. However, I had secretly rented an apartment. Although my family continuously told me, "We won't forgive you if you do this. We won't allow you if you don't do that after becoming an adult," I realized I didn't need their permission anymore. Of course, there were complications like needing a guarantor for certain things. By the way, I intentionally reported less income from my part-time jobs, so the amount of money demanded by my family was minimal. Additionally, I began investing and gradually increased my savings. When Julia was preparing for her high school entrance exams, she used the convenient excuse that she couldn't concentrate with me around, and I was kicked out of the house. My parents seemed to assume I would eventually return, but for me it was a perfect opportunity to become independent. It must have been a surprise for them that I, who was belittled as incapable of doing anything on my own, didn't return. However, that soon became irrelevant to them. As far as my parents were concerned, having Julia was enough. 9 years have passed since then. While lost in thought alone, I overheard an escalating argument between Julia and a man named Daniel. In fact, today was their wedding day. So, they are now married. Though my sister's name might have been on the invitation, I took it as a mere coincidence and didn't give it much thought. My interest in this family had already faded. Why are you taking her side? I've been saying all along that she's suspicious. Just her being here spoils the mood. Kick her out quickly. Look, I've told you several times I invited these people to the wedding. You checked the invitations with me, right? They've already checked in. They're official guests. So apologize for what you said earlier. Daniel pleaded. It's worrying that such arguments are happening just before the wedding. At that moment, my father suddenly said with a surprised look, "Wait, isn't he the son of the head of Anderson General Hospital?" My mother also expressed surprise. Anderson General Hospital, the famous one? The son of the head doctor. My sister's husband, Julia, echoed their surprise. Amid these stares, Philip introduced himself. "Nice to meet you. I'm Philip Anderson. This is my wife, Hazel," and greeted them with a smile. Philip's parents are distinguished doctors who have managed a hospital for many years. Philip himself is being groomed as the talented heir apparent and is passionately studying medicine. Hearing this, my parents' eyes widened in amazement. Suddenly, my sister's husband intervened. "It's unbelievable. But to think that the wife of Dr. Anderson is my wife's sister. Can such a coincidence even be possible? That means we are relatives now?" he said, unable to hide his surprise. "Dr. Wells, I apologize for any trouble my son may have caused in the past," I continued, cutting off his remarks. "My sister's husband, Daniel Wells, is a doctor and works at a university hospital. I had just taken my son to him recently because he was feeling unwell. But that's the extent of our connection. Philip has had professional ties with doctors, and it seems that Wells respects Philip greatly. How's Raul feeling now? From what I diagnosed, he should start receiving treatment immediately. So I suggest you take him to get tested and hospitalized at my hospital." Daniel kindly made that offer, but I replied, "Actually, we've decided to see another doctor for a second opinion. It's important, you know." He couldn't hide his surprise at my response. It seemed that Daniel was attempting to treat my son as a special case, but I was uncomfortable with the idea of my child being seen as a profitable object. Therefore, I gently declined his offer with a smile. Suddenly, a mocking laugh echoed through the air. "Why are you behaving like that? Are you trying to compensate for being a high school graduate by marrying a doctor? Are you stupid? Marrying the heir of a large hospital doesn't elevate your own worth. Your education remains the same. And your thinking is too shallow. You really have a child? Poor kid, having you for a mother," Julia criticized. "Hey Julia, please stop. We're family. Why do you keep saying such things?" Daniel tried to mediate quickly. However, my sister glared at his words. She seemed unshakable in her righteousness. Suddenly, Philip spoke to me. "Hazel, are they really your family?" he asked doubtfully. "No, these people can no longer be called family. A real family wouldn't suddenly scold you for no reason, refuse to feed you just because you spilled a little food, would give me secondhand clothes found in a dumpster while laughing as they compare them to the high-end brands they give to my sister. They wouldn't throw away my study materials claiming you're too stupid to need them, or soak my textbooks with water to make them unusable. So, no. They are not my family anymore. True, a real family wouldn't strip you naked in the winter cold for not lending a book to your sister, or lock you in a hot shed in the summer. They wouldn't silently sell your belongings or tell you directly that you're expected to labor for a lifetime. People in our town have noticed the clinic's unfair treatment of the siblings, suspecting abuse, and they don't want to take their children there. It's actually surprising that no one reported it when we were kids. Now, despite their business suffering, they fail to realize that they are the cause of it. This shows just how severe it is. During our calm exchange, when the cruel acts of my past were revealed, Daniel was shocked. My parents were equally stunned to find out I knew their clinic was struggling financially since I had left home. This information was unearthed by my in-laws, who deeply sympathized with the hardships I endured and felt even more outraged than I did. Philip also harbored similar feelings, and they had been investigating my parents' clinic, potentially to use it for revenge. Stop it. Stop lying. We didn't do any of that. It's your fault for being a failure. Daniel, don't believe a word she says, my sister vehemently protested, but it was too late. He looked at her with disdain. I thought to myself that none of this would have happened if she had ignored me and walked away back then. No, but actually, it's you who are lying, Daniel retorted. Me? Lying? About what? She responded in disbelief. That Mrs. Anderson only graduated high school? She holds a college degree, is a successful entrepreneur, and the CEO of a company involved in hospital food, which has been instrumental for our clinic. CEO, my sister exclaimed in shock, staring at me as if seeing something unbelievable. My parents were equally astounded. Stop lying. She's just a high school graduate. Are you saying she went to college behind our backs without us knowing? My mother said that accusingly. Yes, I did go to college. I was already an adult, and I had no obligation to report to strangers who are not my family, I replied. What are you saying? How can you speak to your parents like that? We didn't give you permission to go to college, my father shouted. Why would I need your permission? I calmly countered, and they could not hide their indignation. After high school, I worked various jobs and saved a considerable amount of money. I used part of these funds to pay for college tuition. There was still so much I wanted to learn and pursue. Living away from home, I enjoyed my freedom and was capable of anything. While in college, I started my own business. That's also when I met my current husband. Reflecting on this fills me with deep emotions. Meanwhile, my sister was mumbling something with a pale face. I can't believe it. I always thought she was the incapable and inept sister who couldn't do anything by herself, that she would die somewhere after being expelled. Despite all that, she graduated from college and is now a CEO and married to the heir of a major hospital. Why? I thought I would be the happier one. Why is she more successful than me? Why does she look happy? Why indeed? Maybe it's because despite being treated unfairly by our family, she never gave up and kept working hard. Maybe luck played a small role as well. After saying this, I looked back at my sister firmly. And then I revealed a shocking fact. By the way, I heard you dropped out of middle school. Is that true? This revelation completely shocked everyone around, including my former parents and Daniel. What? What are you suddenly talking about? Who dropped out of middle school? My sister countered, though I admired her bravery in doing so. I heard from a distant relative who has always been kind to us that after I left home, you overestimated your capabilities, thinking you could easily get into any prestigious school without studying. You went into the exam unprepared and ended up writing almost nothing. resulting in the expected failure. After that, you became unruly at home and were in a reclusive state for a long time, right? You only returned to society recently when our parents introduced Daniel as a suitable marriage partner for you, I explained. As I spoke, Daniel's expression grew increasingly stern, while my parents and sister turned pale. The relative who provided this information is a distant cousin of my father, known for his skill in gathering information. Despite having met only a few times during my childhood, he looked after me and even acted as my guarantor. What baseless things are you saying?" my sister protested, trembling, but I continued. "Actually, the claim that you work in medical administration is also false, isn't it? In reality, you don't have the qualifications and you're only handling menial tasks, not entrusted with any specialist duties. It's good that at least the minimum professional ethics are being maintained," I stated. "Stop it. Your words are filled with lies. All of it is false," she cried out. "Maybe so. What I heard was just a rumor after all. Whether you believe it or not is up to you," I responded. At that, my sister suddenly turned to Daniel, studying his expression intently. On his face were doubt, confusion, and clear disdain. "Julia, you previously told us that you graduated from a prestigious women's university, held qualifications, and were supporting your family's hospital. Are you saying all that was a lie? Falsifying academic credentials to deceive people is clearly fraudulent. Have you deceived me?" Daniel asked pointedly. "No, Daniel. Don't just take her word for it. You're my husband, you should trust me," she pleaded. "Then, please name even one professor from the university you claim to have graduated from," he challenged her directly. Clearly flustered, my sister struggled to respond. "That's not relevant right now." "Is it really not? Well, let's call a professor from the department you claim to have attended right now. This professor is also a family friend of our parents and has a very close relationship with our family," Daniel proposed, ready to unravel the truth once and for all. As he declared this, Daniel calmly picked up his smartphone. "Please stop. That's not necessary. Daniel, if you trust me, that's enough." Oops! Suddenly, Julia snatched the smartphone from Daniel's hand and forcefully slammed it onto the floor. "There's no need to check, just believe me." Driven by anger, Julia slammed the phone to the floor and then mercilessly stomped on it multiple times with her high heels, completely destroying it. Her expression at that moment was distorted with rage, resembling the face of a monster. This scene greatly shocked Daniel, and the people around were stunned by her sudden action. My parents tried to calm Julia down, but her anger seemed not easily subdued. The commotion caught the attention of other guests and the venue's staff, who gathered around with concerned looks. The venue momentarily descended into chaos, with a very intense disturbance unfolding. Despite being there, I felt as if it were happening to someone else. I could no longer feel a familial connection with my sister or those present. For me, my family now consists only of my husband and son. "Shall we go home? I think we've done our duty here," I suggested to my husband. Philip looked a bit surprised and asked, "Are we finishing up already, Hazel?" I replied with a calm smile. "It's okay, let's go home. Oh, and let's stop by the cake shop at this hotel on the way back and buy some delicious cake. There's one that's been very popular recently." "Hey, that sounds like a good idea. Let's pick up a cake on the way home." Philip agreed, and we left the venue with a light laugh. Later, I heard that Daniel was involved in a lawsuit for making false diagnoses to patients and charging excessive medical fees. Following this, my former parents, finding themselves in a dire situation, sought my support. However, they did not know my current contact information and ultimately showed up at the hospital where my husband works, wanting to see us. "So, she's the daughter-in-law of the hospital heir. She is our daughter, please let us see her right away. Contacting the son of the hospital director should solve this problem instantly. We are really in trouble. We need her to repay the kindness we raised her with. We are family. So it's only natural to seek help." That's right. Honestly, I never thought she would be so useful, but it pays to raise them, doesn't it? I never imagined she would find a more suitable partner than Julia. We are now in-laws with the son of the hospital director, so it's natural for us to seek support. They proclaimed this loudly at the reception, causing quite a stir. However, it was not my husband or I who responded, but rather, coincidentally, my parents-in-law. They, with a stern look, firmly asked my parents, "What business do you have with our daughter?" My parents were unsettled by this stern response, literally froze on the spot, and quickly left the scene. They tried to contact us several times afterward, but because they did not focus on resolving their own business issues, their hospital eventually had to close. When I received news of the closure, I felt no particular emotion. Instead, I felt a sense of relief that they had reaped what they sowed. I thought it was one of the most refreshing moments. Later, I heard that Julia and Daniel had gotten divorced. It was astonishing that their marriage had lasted even a few months. The lawsuit Daniel was involved in and his subsequent dismissal from the hospital probably dealt a fatal blow to their relationship. Julia seemed determined to surpass my happiness and find greater joy, but she continued to make poor choices in the process. As her first step, she secretly started having an affair with a much older, married doctor, hoping to find a more advantageous position for herself. However, this affair soon came to light and escalated into a significant issue when the doctor's wife demanded compensation. Desperate, she sought help from her parents to resolve the situation, but they quickly disowned her, labeling her a disgrace to the family. I have no certain information about what happened to her afterward, but she had failed her high school entrance exams and as a result, had lived reclusively at home for a long time. Living a life isolated from society, she unknowingly started working in the night world, facing hardships that eventually led to health issues and ultimately homelessness. Hearing these stories, my interest in her gradually diminished. Meanwhile, as retirement approaches, my former parents struggle to find positions as doctors or nurses, but it seems no hospital will accept them due to their long-standing bad reputation. This is likely a consequence of their ruthless treatment of me in the past. Now, they are no more than people from my past, and I no longer have the capacity to devote time to thinking about them. Regarding my son, fortunately, after examinations at another medical facility, he no longer needs to be hospitalized, and his condition has significantly improved with proper medication. I will continue to do everything I can to protect my family. Where did everyone go? Dad? Mom? I called out to my parents, but the house was enveloped in silence. I hadn't noticed it before, but there was a piece of paper on the table. It was a note written by my parents. "We never thought you are so incompetent. You are not our child. Go wherever you like." When I read the note, I realized that I had been abandoned by my parents. I was so shocked that I couldn't even cry. Not knowing what to do, I hurried to my violin teacher's place. I kept running desperately. I fell and scraped my knees while running, but I ran through the pain. "Mizu Hansen?" "Hannah, why are you so battered?" I held back my tears and told Mizu Hansen about what had happened at home. I was just called incompetent and abandoned by my family. What should I do? Faced with this fact, Mizu Hansen was at a loss for words too. However, after a while, she began to speak quietly. "Don't worry, you are not incompetent." Her warm words brought me relief, and I couldn't stop my tears. "But I am all alone now." "That's not true. I will protect you." "Really?" "Yes, really. From now on, I will be by your side." "Thank you." Mizu Hansen had always believed in my talent. Thanks to that, I was able to resume my violin practice, which I had struggled with before. If you practice diligently, you can become a great musician in the future. Can I really become one? It's possible if you put in the effort. The ones who will regret are your family who abandoned you. 5 years passed after going through rigorous training with a strict instructor. Unexpectedly, I was reunited with my family at a concert. To get back at them, I gave a performance with more vigor than ever before. At the end of the performance, my parents apologized to me. My name is Hannah, and I am now 18 years old. I am making a name for myself as a professional violinist overseas. Meeting a particular person shaped who I am today. Why don't you start playing the violin like your sister Mandy? Indeed, Hannah might follow the same path as Mandy. I think so. Mandy is 3 years older than me and began learning the violin early at our father's suggestion. Our father graduated from a music college and is currently involved in music production. Our mother also learned violin from her childhood, so both of our parents have lived lives related to music. With that background, I naturally felt I was following the same path as my sister. Hannah, from today you will take lessons here with your sister. Yes. Then, I look forward to working with you. When I was 7, I met Mizu Hansen, a violin teacher, and learned everything from the basics to the advanced techniques. Everything was fresh and fascinating, and it was a fun time of learning for me. However, my sister did not think well of this and snitched to our mother. Mizu Hansen, what does this mean? What happened? It's not what happened. Why do you choose Hannah and ignore Mandy? Mandy clearly has more talent, but Hannah is still at an early stage. Our goal as a couple is to make Mandy a top violinist. Mom's complaints continued incessantly. I clearly remember that scene even now. My sister and I were there, and she was snickering. This was the incident that led to a reassessment of my relationship with my teacher. Hannah, you cannot play around forever, you need to work hard like your sister. That's right. Mandy has natural talent unlike you. You should learn from her. I understand. By this time, I was already speaking very politely with my parents. As a young child, I was trying my best not to upset them. The only thing I enjoyed was my violin lesson with Mizu Hansen. You seem down, Hannah. Are you okay? Not at all. There's no one else here. You don't need to hold back. I don't like being at home. Gradually, I began to talk about things at home. That time was a time of pure joy for me. But as time passed, my relationship with my parents became something I could no longer consider familial. Oh? Tonight's dinner seems fancier than usual. Didn't we go to a violin contest recently? Ah, the event where Mandy was the best performer. Did you forget? Not at all. The lavish dinner was to celebrate my sister's great achievement at the contest. I tried to join the celebration, but my sister stopped me. Why is Hannah here? What? Hannah, this has nothing to do with you. I was shocked to hear that. I had believed that my parents would intervene somehow. That's right. Indeed, it's Mandy's celebration party. That's true. I was taken aback. It felt like my chest was being squeezed. So Hannah, could you go back to your room? Why does it have to be like this? Today is my special day. In the end, I appealed to my father. I'm sorry, but you'll have to wait in your room until we give you permission to come out. No one was on my side. Why was I the only one being sent to my room? Am I really part of this family? While tears threatened to fall, I headed to my room. I thought, why is it always just me? Once in my room, I covered myself with a blanket and cried by myself. My pillow quickly became wet. I didn't know how much time had passed. When my tears had dried, just as I was about to get out of bed, Hannah. It was my sister's voice from outside the room. She slowly pushed the door open. What? Could it be that you've been crying? What? No, I wasn't crying. Well, either way, it doesn't matter. Take this. What my sister brought was the leftovers from dinner. You must be hungry, right? Yes, I guess. That makes sense. I was indeed hungry, but it was just leftovers. You didn't help with anything, so this is only natural for you to only eat leftovers, right? I couldn't find the words to argue. Once you're done eating, wash the dishes yourself. We're going to have cake as dessert now. Make sure you don't disturb us." Okay. I had no right to refuse. I just kept thinking about how long this situation would continue. This treatment became a daily norm, and my presence at home felt increasingly insignificant. Then came the incident during the summer vacation of my first year in elementary school. "Next week, we're going on a trip." That's sudden. "We managed to get some time off." "Where are you traveling to?" "Shall we go to Florida?" That sounds lovely. My family was excited about deciding on the travel destination. I didn't join in the conversation and faded into the background. Anything I said would immediately be negated. And then, on the day before the trip, "Is everything ready?" "Yeah, all set." "What about Hannah?" "I'm ready." Although our interaction was minimal, we were excited to travel together. However, the next day, I was taken alone to a different place. "Where is this?" "This is your grandmother's house." I had never met my grandparents before. "Then, please take care of Hannah." "What do you mean?" "It's only natural for us to go on the trip, isn't it?" "Hannah will stay here." "Wait, take me with you." But my cries were in vain. My parents left in the car without looking back. I could only weakly watch my family leave. My grandmother, like my mother, showed no interest in me. "Grandma, I'm hungry." I wasn't asked to prepare any meals. "Fend for yourself." But at that moment, my grandmother glared at me angrily. Fortunately, my parents had left me some money, so I headed to the nearby store. Despite being conscious of people's stares, I couldn't afford to care. I managed to buy some sandwiches and a drink and returned home. "Why are you out so late?" I went to the store to buy some food." "If you do that, I will get scolded." "But then, what should I do?" "Don't argue." At that moment, my grandmother raised her hand to me in anger. Then, a voice scolding her was heard. "What are you doing?" "Honey, are you able to get up? Are you okay?" "That's not the issue." "Tell me what you're doing." She wouldn't obey me. My grandfather came to my side and said, "I'm sorry. If I were healthy." "Don't worry, Grandpa." In fact, my grandfather had been in poor health for several years, mostly bedridden. He sensed something was wrong and came to my rescue. After this incident, my grandmother no longer pressured me. Really, what are they thinking? To just neglect their own daughter like that. "But I'm not lonely because I have you, Grandpa." "Is that so, Hannah?" "You are such a good child." I finally felt like I had someone on my side. My grandfather's presence became a great support to me. Though it was just for a week, he took care of me the entire time. Then the day when my family returned from their trip came. "Hannah, we've come to pick you up." At that moment, my angry grandfather approached my mother. "How can you just leave your daughter like that? Is it okay for you to get up? Don't change the subject. This is a family matter. Don't say anything unnecessary. This is no joke." My mother ignored my grandfather's words and pulled my hand strongly. "I can't stand it anymore. We're going home." "Wait a minute. Come this way." In the end, I couldn't properly say goodbye to my grandfather. "You didn't say anything unnecessary, did you?" "No, I didn't." "Well, we probably won't see each other again?" "What do you mean by that?" Just like that, a momentarily enjoyable moment passed. When we got home, there was always laughter from the fun travel stories. Unable to bear such an atmosphere, I retreated to my room. I thought, I wish I could grow up quickly. But the tragedy was not yet over. About 2 months after the hellish incident, my mother was busy doing something in the morning. "Why is this happening at a time like this?" "Did something happen?" I asked, seeing my mother's unusual behavior. "Oh, Grandpa has just passed away." "Grandpa has passed away. That's why I'm busy." "Don't bother me. Yes, I understand. Really, this is such a hassle. While saying this, my mother started making phone calls. I don't remember much about what happened after that. My grandfather's death had a significant impact on me. All I remember is the disgusted faces my mother made during the funeral and wake. Before I knew it, I had turned 8 years old. And the next day, I had a violin lesson scheduled. The only consolation for my heart then was the time spent with Mizu Hansen. However, it bothered me that my family seemed busy with something. Since I was confined to my room, I could only guess what was happening outside by the sounds. The next day, "Come on, today is the day for your violin lesson. Hurry up and get ready." Okay. At that moment, I realized something. My sister wasn't preparing at all and just laughed at me. What about Mandy? I no longer need to go there. What? So, hurry up and go. I had no idea what was about to happen next. When the violin lesson was over and I was returning home. "See you next week." "Yes, thank you." Usually my mother would come to pick me up. But no matter how long I waited, she didn't appear. Mizu Hansen, feeling suspicious, called my mother for me. That's strange, she's not answering the phone. I wonder if something happened. Did she say anything? I shook my head. Unable to wait any longer, I decided to walk home. "Mizu Hansen, I'm going to walk home." "What?" "But it's already dark. Should I accompany you?" "It's close and I'll take a well-lit path, so it's okay." Really? Thus I headed home alone as my mother did not come to pick me up. I didn't know why she hadn't come, but I made my way home regardless. When I arrived, the front door, which is usually locked, was unlocked. I'm home. Despite saying this, there was no response. As I searched the house, I was overcome with an unsettling feeling. Where did everyone go? Dad? Mom? I called out to my parents, but the house was enveloped in silence. I hadn't noticed it before, but there was a piece of paper on the table. It was a note written by my parents. "We never thought you were so incompetent. You are not our child. Go wherever you like." When I read the note, I realized that I had been abandoned by my parents. I was so shocked that I couldn't even cry. Not knowing what to do, I hurried to Mizu Hansen's place. I kept running desperately. I fell and scraped my knees while running, but I ran through the pain. "Mizu Hansen. Hannah, why are you so battered?" I held back my tears and told Mizu Hansen about what had happened at home. I was just called incompetent and abandoned by my family. What should I do? Faced with this fact, Mizu Hansen was at a loss for words too. However, after a while, Mizu Hansen began to speak quietly. "Don't worry, you are not incompetent." Saying this, Mizu Hansen gave me a warm hug. Comforted by this warmth, I couldn't stop my tears. But I am all alone now. That's not true. I will protect you. Really? Yes, really. From now on, I will be by your side. Yes. I spent that night at Mizu Hansen's home. Mizu Hansen had a spouse, and her husband also lived with her. He empathized with my story, and was as upset as if it were his own issue. As I fell asleep, I wondered what it would be like if they were my real parents. The next morning, I woke up in their house. We were looking for any clues about my family after they disappeared suddenly. This is the note left behind yesterday. Yes. At that moment, Mizu Hansen noticed something. Oh. This letter has a second page. I was surprised by the existence of a second page. Mizu Hansen read the letter and sighed deeply. Why would they do something so terrible? Mizu Hansen? I'm sorry. It says that they've left you behind with your grandmother. Grandma. Honestly, I couldn't imagine living with my grandmother. My grandfather had already passed away, and I never thought I'd go there. Mizu Hansen understood my situation and immediately contacted my grandmother. My grandmother was also unaware of this plan and was perplexed. According to Mizu Hansen, My grandmother said she couldn't take care of me and asked if Mizu Hansen could take care of me instead. Why is this family so irresponsible? To disappear, leave their daughter and try to pass her on to someone else. I could feel Mizu Hansen's anger. I was deeply grateful that she was making such an effort for me. Mizu Hansen, shall we go back? Yes, let's go back. We packed the things I needed into a bag and headed to her home. Leaving the house, I felt a surge of sadness for my family and initially drowned in tears. Mizu Hansen never abandoned me and always provided support. She never saw me as mediocre and always believed in my talent. It had been a month since my parents left, and I was gradually getting used to my new life. Mizu Hansen, I have something to tell you. What is it? I had made an important decision. I had sealed away the violin to distance myself from memories of my family, but I felt it was time to change that. I want to start practicing the violin again. Are you sure? Will it not be too painful? No, I want to improve more. Then, let me support you wholeheartedly. Thank you. Mizu Hansen smiled happily. Actually, I've kept this a secret from your mother and Mandy, but Hannah, you have a special talent. Really, me. If you practice diligently, you can become a wonderful musician in the future, even better than Mandy. Can I really become that good? It all depends on your effort. The ones who will regret it are your family who abandoned you. Hearing these words, I suddenly felt motivated. Her gaze at that moment was straightforward and did not seem deceitful. I felt that if I could truly reach that level, I might be able to get back at my former family. That's when our rigorous joint training began. I was only 8 years old, but the training was extremely tough. That won't do. Start over from the beginning. Yes, Mizu Hansen. I woke up at 6 every morning, dedicated the little time before school to practice, and continued practicing after returning home until bedtime. I don't even know how I managed to keep going. Then one evening, I overheard a conversation between Mizu Hansen and her husband. Hannah is only 8. Isn't this too harsh? I do worry sometimes. Then maybe. But I sense a strong will in her to improve. Her gaze isn't that of a child anymore. It's as if she's pleading for something. I see. Then, all I can do is support her when she hits a wall. That would be great. Thank you. Don't worry. Hannah is part of our family now. Hearing their conversation, tears naturally flowed from my eyes. They had always been kind, but I had worried that perhaps they disliked me. However, after hearing their conversation that night, all such fears disappeared. It further boosted my motivation. As time passed, 1 or 2 years flew by. You're progressing well, Hannah. You're doing great. Thank you. But you mustn't be satisfied yet. There's still so much to learn. Understood. 5 years later, the time since our rigorous training began had passed quickly. There's a concert soon in the next town. Would you like to participate? A concert. I participated in one when I was about your age. Really? I didn't know. I think it's a perfect chance to test your current skills. However, the final decision is yours to make. I'll participate, of course. I immediately agreed to the proposal. There was no reason for me to refuse. I had a desire for someone to recognize the results of my long-term practice. Great. Then, we have no time to waste. Let's start practicing right away. Yes, Mizu Hansen. The day of the concert arrived, and there I saw unexpected people. I quickly told Mizu Hansen. Mizu Hansen, I just saw my family. What? Yes, I haven't forgotten their faces since that day. Are you okay? Yes, I've prepared well for today, and I'm confident that I won't lose to anyone. But remember, today is about the concert. Let's go. At that moment, the expressions on my family's faces looked very tired. However, my focus was entirely on the concert that day. Your turn is coming up soon. Are you nervous? No, I can't wait to perform. Then there's nothing to worry about. Your family is here too, so surprise them. Here I go. I felt incredibly empowered when Mizu Hansen encouraged me backstage. It was a feeling I never experienced while living with my family. My name was called, and I moved towards the stage. I greeted the audience and started to play. It felt like I became one with the violin. I was able to perform more freely and joyously than ever before. After finishing my performance and looking at the audience, almost everyone was giving a standing ovation. Amazing, I muttered. Looking around, one spot caught my eye. It looked empty. Upon closer inspection, my family was sitting there. As my performance ended, I bowed and headed backstage. That was truly a wonderful performance. It's definitely the best performance today. Thank you, Mizu Hansen. She hugged me warmly. Although it was a bit painful, I hadn't expected to be this happy. And you know, your family was there, and their faces were incredible. Listening to your performance must have brought them mixed feelings. You really showed them. As we were preparing to leave after a successful concert, someone approached me. Hannah. As I turned around, there were my parents. What? Your performance just now was truly wonderful. Yes, we never imagined you would grow up to be such an amazing violinist. Both of them exchanged forced smiles with each other. I had never felt more uncomfortable. Well, I'm going home now. Mizu Hansen, let's go. I started heading towards the exit, ignoring my parents. At that moment, my mother grabbed my arm. What are you doing? Wait, listen to us. What now? There's nothing I need to hear from you. Don't say that. We're family. Their words brought my anger to a peak. That's a joke. You abandoned me. I don't need you playing parents now. My parents pleaded. Please, just hear us out. Seeing my parents plead desperately made me feel pitiful for them. So, what is it? Actually, Mandy isn't playing the violin anymore. Is that so? Indeed, my sister wasn't at the event, which spoke volumes. She's been too caught up in her hobbies and hasn't touched the violin in over a year. Really? Mandy might never play the violin again. Honestly, I couldn't care less. Though she was once hailed as a prodigy, they were just utterly foolish parents. I understood their real intentions. They were trying to make me a substitute for my sister. So let's live under the same roof again. We finally realized our mistake. And so, I was sick of their self-centered reasoning. Do you really think that way? I really do think so. That's why. There's no way I can live with you again. Just stop it. Let's discuss this. No way. If you want to talk to me, wait there until I give permission. Don't chase after me. I left them behind and walked away. Looking back, they were sitting down, heads bowed. It's the epitome of foolishness. To be rejected now by the daughter they once discarded. Was what I did right? Yes, it was absolutely the right thing to do. I was so clear about it. There should be no worries now. I'm exhausted. Let's go home. Yes, it was a wonderful performance, and we should celebrate. My heart soared with the joy of a celebration 6 years in the making. When we got home, we enjoyed a pleasant time celebrating the success of the concert. It was the first time in a long while that I had such a peaceful moment. I wish I could have been there. Don't worry, there will be other chances. I want to listen to you playing the violin every time. I'm looking forward to it. This concert made my name widely known. I started receiving invitations from many places, and concert requests kept coming. During this period, I was widely praised as a genius girl in the industry, but my parents couldn't keep silent about it. They immediately contacted the teacher under whom I was studying. You are highly irresponsible. Why have you left her on her own until now? They seemed to be having a fierce argument. From this exchange, I could see my parents' intent to try and bring me back to them. I asked to speak on the phone. "Hello, are you spouting nonsense again?" when asked. They replied, "Hannah, perhaps it's time for you to come back." I was once again reminded of how adept they were at irritating me. No matter what they said, I had no intention of returning to my parents. "Why do I need to be there when you already have a genius in Mandy?" I said. "That child is hopeless now," my mother said. "I would hate to be a replacement for her even in death," I replied. "Why would you say that?" my mother asked. "You don't know how much suffering I have endured. Please don't contact me anymore," I said firmly. With that, I hung up the phone, cutting off all ties with my parents at that moment. Soon after, I received an offer to study abroad, and I began my career as a professional violinist. From now on, I am free from the constraints of my parents and intend to live my own life freely,